What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and today I want to play a little game with you. It's a popular game in AFL circles. It's one that was heavily inspired by the likes of Wordle, a game that really picked up during the pandemic. And this game, a spin-off of it, picked up some pretty decent steam as well. I want to take you through a game of Warple. This is an AFL player guessing game where you take a stab in the dark at who the player might be. You've got 8 picks. And you can choose them, like you select players, and then you're kind of narrowing down on the correct answer based on the team they play for, the state they play for, the position that the state they play in, I should say, the position that they play in, their debut year, their height, their age, their player number, a whole range of metrics, pieces of data you can work with to gradually narrow it down and work out who the player is. And today we want to talk about the game Warple because we're going to talk about the player who inspired that game, James Worpel, who, according to Sam McClure in his tradie show, he believes the deal's done. He's going to become a Cat next season. And that's a really fascinating piece of news. Of course, there's not been a lot of history in recent years of Hawthorn players becoming Cats or exchanges really of players between Geelong and Hawthorn. We've, of course, seen Isaac Smith join the Cats from the Hawks, and he became a Norm Smith medalist, another premiership player. We saw Cooper Stevens depart the Cats to join the Hawks, struggled, didn't work out, kind of end of the road there. This is another one of those candidates that, well, if you believe Sam McClure, he's going to join the Cats. And I want to discuss the prospects of this, what we would have to give up to get a player like Jimmy Warple, what he could offer the club, why he's not necessarily the worst inclusion in the world for the Geelong list. We're going to discuss all of that in this video. But first, let's take a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now, let's talk a little bit about James Worpel and this rumor that's going around, according to Sam McClure. And I'll be honest, I'd heard some speculation about this for a little while, that maybe there was a possibility that Geelong could get involved. I want to talk about the prospects of this, why it may or may not happen, and what he can offer if he were to join the Cats. So let's take a look at some data here and some key personal pieces of detail when it comes to James Worpel. I had to go to the Hawthorn website. It feels wrong to type that into my browser, but I did it nonetheless for you, the good people, to have this conversation today. And we look at the 4 games he's played so far, his tackle count and his clearances. Very important to Geelong, these metrics right now. His clearance numbers, elite. Tackle numbers, elite. His disposal count, it's average, fine, no worries there. He's more of a handball than a kick-based player as things stand. We'll look at some overall career numbers to kind of, I guess, compare the pair a little bit. But what is really important as we go through this is actually some of these personal details. And no, not the description of what happened in 2024. No, not the fact that you can follow him on Instagram, though feel free to if you believe he's going to become a Cat. It's this little part here, this beautiful little nugget that says he's from Bell Park. There's a temptation maybe to go home, to come down the highway, to get Ollie Henry-style homesickness and make a 45-minute trip up the freeway. I kid, of course, in that regard, the Surf Coast, all the wonderful reasons why you might want to come to Geelong. And it sounds like, you kind of see these rumblings. He was an in for Will Day going into the game against us because Will Day had been out. Jimmy Warple had been kind of on the sidelines a little bit there. He's obviously established himself a little bit more recently, but he seems to be on the fringe of that, top tier midfield at the Hawks. And he might be hunting some opportunity. And when I think about what James Worpel can offer the Cats, if he were to hypothetically join, goes back to this particular statistic, the clearance figures. We have been getting smoked in that area recently. And that is despite having Bailey Smith, Max Holmes, Tom Atkins, Danger from time to time, and a fleet of young blokes who are going through that area of the ground. And it's not really working for us at the moment. We're still being beaten at the coalface. And this is an area of the game that James Worpel thrives in. And so I'm really instantly quite bullish. I know he's not the Bailey Smith, the Clayton Oliver, the Christian Petrarca, the Zach Butters, the really high profile players, the Harley Reeds of the world that we've been linked to so far. But I think when we're talking about building a Geelong list that can go and chase a premiership, this is the sort of guy that's going to be really handy to us in that respect. And so I scrolled through the list here and, pick 45 in the 2017 draft. Importantly, makes him 25 years old as we speak. That is a great age for the Geelong list profile, the age profile of our list. That's fantastic for him there. He played 25 matches in the brown and gold across the season, ranked above average in disposals, blah, 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 finishing fourth in the Peter Crimmins medal. So he's coming in with good form in a season where the Hawks obviously exploded in the second half of the year. If we look at some stats here, some career stats, season by season style. I wish I could show this by average, but we can see these are really fantastic. Looking at 2023, 2024, these are some really fantastic numbers when it comes to important metrics like disposals, tackles. He's hitting the scoreboard with a few goals. I'd like to maybe see a greater goals per game average. It's kind of 0.25, 0.3 there. That's not necessarily ideal. I think he can be more of a weapon than that. And maybe that's an aspect of his game that he needs to look at a little bit this year. He's certainly on track to surpass the 6 goals of last year based on his 4 games played so far. That's a good sign, I guess, if he's kind of attacking that, endeavoring to improve that more attacking component of his game. But I think for the clearance figures alone, his top career performance is apparently against the Cats. Round 6, career against the Cats. Tackles, career against the Cats. Doesn't mind playing against us. There we go. Kicks, top career performance against the Cats. Doesn't mind a matchup against the Cats, but it'd be great for him to be in the hoops and taking on the Hawks instead. I think this is a guy who is very, very much gettable, clearly. That's what the conversation from Sam McClure is suggesting. I'm sure more will jump on this conversation soon, either echoing those thoughts or discussing it further. But I think there's something to this. And I look at, again, these 2 really important stats to me, the defensive pressure that you can bring as a midfielder, but then, of course, the attacking edge, the clearance figures. These are great numbers. They are good things to see. And then it becomes a matter of what do we need to offer Hawthorn to prize out someone like James Worpel, who's 26 years old. He's in the absolute pinnacle of his career when it comes to age and presumably health and all those sorts of things. It's not to say he hasn't had troubles over the years. 11 games, 15 games, 11 games. Like there's been some years that have been somewhat hampered by injury. But this is a guy who, theoretically speaking, should be at the absolute apex of what his body can achieve in this game right now. And that probably jacks up his price a little bit. What I would hope that Geelong can do in this scenario is probably prize him out with, he's not a first round pick player. Unless his contract ends up being monstrous. And this is not me talking about necessarily what I believe him to be worth, because I think he's actually going to be worth a lot more than what he would be paid and what he would be valued in terms of picks and those things. I'm talking about the value that we get from him as a player on the ground. In terms of picks, this is not a guy that goes for first round selections. This is not a guy who's going to, I would say, and I know fourth in the best and fairest good in a team that really succeeded in the second half of the year is a really good thing. And speaks volumes about the guy. But sorry to Hawthorn supporters, I'm definitely not trying to be offensive or anything in this case. And usually we're trying to throw a bit of shade at Hawthorn supporters, but I'm not in this case, I swear. If we're just talking about what he can add to the Cats, I think it's far greater than his actual monetary and draft capital worth. I think he's a second round pick, maybe a second and a third together. I would say actually that's probably closer to fair. Maybe 2 seconds. Maybe Geelong has to try and endeavour to get multiple second round draft picks here, or trade a current second and a future second, whatever combination permutation it ends up being. I think 2 seconds a second and a third, somewhere in that ballpark gets the job done here. If trading is, of course, the net income, the net result here. What I'm also going to double check really briefly is AFL free agents for season 2025, because I do want to double check to see if he is a free agent this year. More like a bit of shame on my part that I really should have double checked this in the first place. No, he's not a free agent. Didn't think so. So it's a trade. A trade is what is required to prize him out of the Hawks. Seems like he's pretty willing, if you believe Sam McClure. And I think multiple seconds, a second and a third, somewhere in that vicinity gets the job done. And Hawthorn picks up a few great players with that. They use that to transact. They're, of course, still looking to get busy in this upcoming trade period as well. You can bundle those into another transaction. I think this is a win-win for both clubs in a lot of ways. We get someone who's going to be really additive to that midfield, brings a bit of experience, adds to the depth and capacity of that midfield, gives the likes of Bailey Smith, Tom Atkins, and Max Holmes some support there. He's a regular fixture. I don't think he gets pushed out in any way, shape, or form. And when there's question marks being raised, and I'm not saying they're right for being raised, but when question marks are being raised about the likes of Jai Clark and Mitch Nevitt and Ted Closey, some of these younger up-and-coming players who haven't necessarily exploded for the Cats yet, well, this is a bloke that helps fill in that gap and maybe eases some worries and concerns, gives us that depth in the midfield that we so dearly need. Let me know in the comments what you think about the idea. And I know Cats fans, I know it's a little bit of a traumatic idea to picture another Hawthorn player in the blue and white hoops, but it worked pretty well for Isaac Smith and us. Maybe it'll work for us again. Let me know what you think, Cats fans, about the idea of Jimmy Warple becoming a Cat. Of course, if you're a Hawthorn supporter watching this, I'm also really keen to hear what you've got to say. There's not usually a lot of love for between Geelong and Hawthorn supporters, but I genuinely want to hear from you. If you're watching and listening today, let me know in the comments what you think he's worth. Let's not take the piss here. Let's have a really genuine conversation. What do you believe? Because you've all had eyes on him for much longer than I have. What do you think a player like James Worpel is worth in the current market? Am I off base by saying 2 seconds? Is it a late first? Is it somewhere else? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know. In your mind, is he a non-negotiable? Or is it contingent upon, okay, if we're going to get Harley Reid, for example, we're willing to lose someone like James Worpel to get the picks that allows us to get him or Zach Butters or whoever it happens to be. Those are the larger conversations that spin off this. And I'm really keen to hear what everyone, Geelong supporters, Hawthorn supporters, and even neutrals, if you're watching, what you've got to say about this, because it's a really nuanced conversation. Thank you all for having tuned in today. Let me know in the comments what you think about this particular topic. Keen to discuss it with you further in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. All those buttons are down below. Like the video as well. Share it with your friends. Get the word out there about the Hoops Crew, the content we make, and engaging in more of these good, honest, proper conversations about this wonderful game. You'll find us on Patreon if you enjoy this and you want to see more of what we get up to. Check out our Patreon. There is a 7-day free trial period. You can sign up, see if it's for you, enjoy some of that early access, extended and exclusive content. And if you are enjoying it, stick around for even longer. It only costs $5 or $6 a month for you to continue to pledge that ongoing support and get that content delivered straight to your email inbox. In terms of socials, you'll find me at Paul James Games. The Hoops Crew is at The Hoops Crew. You'll find us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. Check the platform. You'll catch us there. And until next time, remain Geelong strong. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later.